Uh-huh.
The mutiny that is going on. Like, okay, so here's the thing. Sometimes, right? So let's say for instance, somebody, you get a job, right? As a teacher, okay? You come into the classroom and they tell you you're replacing Mr. Foster. So, but we want you to sit in the class and we want you to kind of study what's going on, study the students, listen to how Mr. Foster does his job, see which kids are problem kids, see which kids are the smart kids, and kind of make your plan of how you're going to approach your class moving forward. We have you sit here for an indeterminate amount of time, but when we call you and say, "Hey, it's your job," you go, or maybe we might not even call you, but we just want you to be here just in case. So you see Mr. Foster get run over by the kids. I mean, the kids are walking up to Mr. Foster, they smacking him in the mouth. Mr. Foster says, "Sit down." They say, "Shut up, Mr. Foster, before I smack you again." And it's just it's a mess. And all the kids score grade levels are just below average. It's just bad. It's just all of it. It's all bad, right? Couple kids that wish they were in a better environment, but they're not, right? Then all of a sudden, one day, principal comes in and says, "Mr. Foster's fired." And then they look at you and they say, "Hey, man, you want this job?" And you say, "Sure." Now you've been watching Mr. Foster get run over all the time, whole time, right? So your mind says, "All right, when I come in, what am I going to do?" Right? And so some people might say, "I'm going to jump in and I'm going to say, this is not going to happen this way. And I'm going to be super hard line and I'm going to show my teeth from the beginning." And they might think that that's the right thing to do. So I created this school classroom analogy to kind of paint the picture of what I think happened with Jim Boylan when Jim Boylan took over the job for Fred Hoiberg. Fred Hoiberg is Mr. Foster. He's the guy that's been getting run over by the class. The kids are not listening to him. The grade levels are the Bulls' win-loss record. It's just been terrible, right? It's not been a good 4 years or 3+ years. And probably he should have got fired at the end of last year, right? The biggest problem with Fred Hoiberg is the fact that he's not a leader of men. I don't think it's even really about X's and O's. I don't think it was necessarily about that. I think the fact of the matter is he's not a leader of men and guys don't respect him. So therefore they're not going to follow or they're not going to do whatever it is. They're not going to buy into his concept. So Jim Boylan's thought that his best approach was to come in and be the anti-Hoiberg. And I don't think that that was the right thing to do. I think he tried so hard to not be the anti-Hoiberg, to not be Fred Hoiberg, that he has become the other end of the spectrum. And by doing that, he has either already lost his team or he is very, very close to losing them. So for anybody that doesn't know, the Chicago Bulls, after getting beat by 57 points against the Boston Celtics, had a practice schedule, a long, hard practice schedule the day after a back-to-back, and they'd had another long practice schedule before the back-to-backs began. So Zach LaVine and a few other guys got together. They went to the NBA Players Association. They were like, "Hey, man, this dude is crazy. He is trying to get us, to work under some really, crazy conditions. I guess maybe somebody's going to get hurt. All these guys are their own investment. Nobody wants to get hurt." And that, and the fact that Jim Boylan gets on in front of the media and says, and essentially questions his players' work ethic and toughness. And I am always, and you guys might have remembered me talking about this in the Jimmy Butler situation. I am absolutely a proponent of confrontation and confronting people. And anybody who knows me knows that if I have an issue, you're gonna know about it. But I am not a fan of doing that kind of stuff in public. I'm not a fan of that. And to me, that's what Jim Boylan did. And on top of the crazy back-to-back, practices after the back-to-back games, I think that is where he went most wrong. I don't know if it's a recoverable thing. I don't know if it's a recoverable situation. But I do know that the Bulls are in absolute shambles. And I'm cautiously interested in hearing what you have to say about it.
I think what happens is when you get a soft coach like Hoiberg, you get this lack of we see it a lot of times. Every team doesn't work well with a lack of discipline. Sometimes you get a guy like, say, Steph Curry, who has the same attitude as his coach, same intelligence level, same perspective, and they can have a more relaxed atmosphere while still having that same level of accountability.
Mhm.
Right now, they did start with Mark Jackson, who was the discipline guy
Mhm.
before Steve Kerr got there. Similar to you guys started with Hoiberg. I'm not Hoiberg, I'm sorry, with Thibodeau, who was a
Mhm.
discipline guy before Hoiberg got there. The problem was you guys had a transfer over of talent because, Derrick Rose was hurt too much. Joakim Noah started to break down. Jimmy Butler started to take over the team. And so you had Jimmy and Dwayne and Rondo, who had one perspective of what work was supposed to be like. Then you had the rest of the organization, or a lot of the guys in that locker room. The younger guys, which was notably said by the veterans, the younger guys and the veterans had a little locker room civil war, and they didn't see eye to eye. And you look at it, all of those veterans left and are generally playing well. Rondo's doing great in LA, did well with the Pelicans. Butler's doing great on the 76ers right now. Dwayne Wade's closing out his career fine. Even Derrick Rose got his comeback. He's doing his thing, right? The younger guys have not proven that they can do anything in the league yet. Now, you guys have injuries and all that other stuff. But I think what management is looking at is similar to the Knicks. And they're saying, we need a better culture first. What's our culture like? And like you said, Hoiberg's situation, X's and O's, he's a great assistant coach, but he's not a great culture coach. And the culture has been disintegrating every year since he got there to now where it's at rock bottom. Possibly worst culture in the league, maybe next to Phoenix, right?
Mhm.
So
Close.
yeah, so it's you guys in Phoenix at war for the worst culture because you guys' record, even with the injuries, is probably worse than you guys' talent.
Yes.
Right now, Markkanen's back, so I expect you guys to win more games despite.
And Dunn and Portis are back.
Right, and Dunn was really turning into a solid player,
Mhm.
right? Young guy, could be super talented. You guys need that culture, and Zach LaVine, it's very interesting because he's gotten paid. He started out scoring a bunch of points, then that was clearly like more of a hot streak than anything because the inefficiency started to outweigh the production a bit. And it stands to question, is Zach LaVine fighting for leadership over this team with the head coach? And ownership and management has chosen the head coach. And I think that's a very important step for the Bulls, even if um, Boylan was wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Even if he's wrong in this particular scenario, the idea that after a 57-point loss, you don't get nothing is not wrong. The idea that your life gets a lot harder after a 57-point loss, people feel that. Yeah, like Isaiah Thomas was talking about that, and so was Kevin McHale. We got our butts kicked one day and we expected all of it. We expected the push-ups, you know what I'm saying? Practice with no shoes, whatever you want to throw at us. We expect it because we're supposed to be better than that. And these guys, there are clearly guys in the locker room that don't feel that way. And that's a problem. So even though the implementation of that attitude might have been a little over the top, at the same time, the reaction to one practice out of place that you feel shouldn't be the case, it might be a little much for a team playing as badly as they're playing.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I don't have as much of a problem with the practice as I do the public berating. Like, I just feel like that is never the right thing. Like, I can totally understand. We get in a room And I literally lay into every one of these players individually. And I'm like, dude, your effort tonight was terrible. It was terrible. I mean, you did not get back on defense. Every screen you were supposed to set was a freaking revolving door. You did nothing to help this team. The only thing it looked like you wanted to do was shoot. That's the only thing it looked like you wanted to do tonight. And I go down the line. Whoever, I have no problem with that if you're the head coach, right? But to me, when they stick a mic in your face and you just got the job, and then one of the first things out of your mouth is questioning the publicly questioning the effort of the team. No, man, you know, it's like a marriage to me, man. And when you talk to the media, it's like you're talking to other people about your marriage. And you would, I'm not gonna, me and my wife could have just had the most serious fallout ever, but I'm not going in front of everybody else. You
And
know,
tell
me
them
and
that
my,
you lost a fight. I
huh?
understand.
I'm not, I'm not, I'm
But
not, I'm
here,
not gonna do it. You're gonna guess.
here's the thing. I in spirit, I tend to side with you on that, but at the same time, I have to look at the reality of the situation. And for some coaches, that works better than others. Um, Obviously, Phil Jackson famously was a guy who would go through the media because he knew that's what they cared about, right? Because you got some of these guys are so well paid and so comfortable that the only way to make them uncomfortable is to show them that their behavior will be reflected in their reputation and the perception of them. So while that would not be my personal method, I can't argue that it's worked for many people and many times. Now, what I disagree with is being two-faced about it. He clearly doesn't seem like a guy who's two-faced. He's saying the same thing to everybody that asks,
Yeah.
right? And so we might not like that method, but it's a method that works. And the bottom line is, if those players did the other things that you talked about better, they would have less of a problem. And so that seems to be the solution that Chicago needs. Because at the end of the day, it's what is going to move the franchise forward better. Is it going with a disciplined guy like him who has a long, excellent reputation in this league? Or is it going with a volume scorer who doesn't seem to want to do anything else like Zach LaVine?
Well, okay, Zach's not a great defender. He's not a great defender at all. But he is a willing passer. He is a dude that creates for teammates. And like you and I have both discussed before, everybody doesn't have to be Kawhi Leonard. Everybody doesn't have to be Tony Allen. You know, you can't be an embarrassment on defense, but you don't. And I don't think that he's an embarrassment on defense. Can he get better? Yes, but I don't think he's an embarrassment on defense. I don't think that that's, like I said, I don't have a problem with coming hard down on the team. The other thing, and the comparison between him and Phil Jackson is a really big difference because he's Phil Jackson, you're Jim freaking Boylan. So, and you just got the job 48 hours ago. So, yeah, you trying to pick these different methods to attack players. Okay, bro, you haven't won any more than we have, if you're just being totally honest. So I know you've been an assistant coach for 40 million years, but there's a reason you've been an assistant coach for 40 million years. There's a reason nobody's hired you. And I'm starting to think this is why. You know what I mean? He sued the Cleveland Cavaliers because he said that it was age discrimination why he didn't get a job, why he didn't get offered the head coaching job. I don't think that. I think it's because, dude, if you have seen his interviews, he seems like a guy who really, really needs some intense media training, because they get under his skin really quickly. He gets all flustered really quick.
That still stands to the question before we move on to the next topic. As a Chicago fan, would you rather, out of the two options you only got two, your leader be your new head coach or your new franchise player?
Well, honestly, I would have to choose C, and C is the entire front office and the head coach need to be removed, because I agree with you about culture. The culture has to change, but I believe that the culture has to change from the top, not from mid management, which is essentially what the head coach is.
I'll be weak. I'm rather unique.